1, 2, yeah. Check. Hey. 1, 2, yes. 1, 2, yeah. 1, 2.
Right then, good evening ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our second pre-season fans forum. The format is exactly the same as before, no questions are off limit. All we need you to do is put your hand up, I'll come across with the microphone. All we want you to do is please mind the language. It's live on YouTube and live on the Carlisle United website as well. So, without any further ado, the panel this evening, we have Billy Atkinson, John Nixon, Paul Simpson, Nigel Clivins, Stephen Pattinson and Suzanne Kidd. So questions for any of the panel, nothing's off limits. Who's going to be first? Oh, that's a quick one. Go on, Stephen.
What steps is the club taking to avoid the situation that was last year with the pitch invasions and stuff like that?
Well, in terms of fans getting on the pitch, I think everybody recognises that football's passionate, it's exciting, very tribal. You support your team, you love your team, you want to see it win. So we all get all that, but there comes a point where some fans step over the line, and we don't want to see that. We're getting pressured from the EFL and the authorities to ensure people don't go on the pitch, and our response is really simple. We're appealing to fans. We're trying to educate them into the consequences, which are more police bills, more stewarding bills, and it damages the reputation of the clubs. And I think our fans get it. I think we had an instance where we had 3 or 4 young kids who were all under 15, who all came on one particular game. But since we got the messages out, that kind of stopped in the rest of the season. So we'll just keep on with the messaging. I think fans understand, they're going to support the team, but they know not to come on the pitch, and we'll keep getting that message across. Ultimately, if they do, we're going to get more bills to pay, and if we do, that means we can't spend the money on things that fans want, which is the club and the team, which it doesn't do us any good anyway. So we don't want that. We would rather spend it on the club and the team. So I think fans get that, and I think we won't have any problems.
It was one over here, I think.
Whose decision was it to change the club's colours?
The club hasn't changed its colours.
Well, either you're colourblind or I am, but Paul's shirt's blue, your shirt's blue, your jumper certainly isn't blue, Amy's shirt's blue, Andy's shirt...
What colour do you call the tablecloths?
Dark blue, but they're
So
certainly
blue,
a lot lighter than
so blue. I admit that the strip is a dark blue. The club has played in dark blue before, but it's nonetheless it's blue. So we haven't changed the colours. I think it's wrong to say that we've changed the colours, Derek. It's a dark blue for a change, and it's record-breaking sales. So some people like it.
Next, anyone else?
Question for Paul. Contracts are sort of ending today, 1st of July tomorrow. Is there any chance of some imminent signings, you think? Or?
I'm hoping so. Yeah, I mean, we've been trying all summer. You know, just because there's only been a small handful of signings, that's not a reflection of the work that's gone in to try and get players in. And I tried to explain this the other week. Forget what was it at the breakfast, wasn't it? When the fixture launched, I was trying to explain it then that the way that players' contracts are, yes, they finish today. This is the last day of their existing contracts. But the way that a player's contract works is that if they don't get fixed up with another club, they're still entitled to a month's pay, so they still get paid for July as well. So the way that we're trying to do it is that I'm looking for players who are sometimes from a higher level than what we are now, or if they're not from a higher level, they're on more money than we're offering them at the moment. So they're in a position where they want to hold on. They want to see whether they can get bigger, better, as in clubs, levels, finances. So we've got to be patient, but it's just started to turn over the last sort of week, where everybody's back in for pre-season training now, and I think players are looking and going, bugger, I haven't got anywhere to train at the moment. I spoke to one today who's playing at higher level, and talked to him. We spoke to, well, I didn't, Greg spoke to his agent about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he said, well, he's going to wait and see whether he can get something at League One or Championship level. So we have to be patient, and I'm being patient, but we're now getting a point where they're now ringing us saying, is there still an interest in him? And there is, because we have to be that way. We can't just spit our dummies out because they say no to start with. And I'm hoping that within the next sort of 10 days, there's going to be signings coming in. I can't guarantee it, so please don't call me a liar in 10 days if they don't come in. We are desperately trying to get players in because I recognise there are areas in our squad that need strengthening, and that's what we're trying to do at the moment.
Yeah, anywhere in particular? Obviously, maybe centre half, something like that.
Maybe you're right. Yeah, it's really difficult because when I talk about positions in the group, what I don't want to be is disrespectful to the players who we've got in those positions. What I would say is, yes, centre backs is an area where we are short. We lost Rod McDonald last season, Kelvin Mellor left the club, so that defensive area we are short. Joel Senior is doing really well with his rehab, but probably best case scenario we're looking at October, maybe even November that he's going to be back. The only other recognised right-sided defensive player we've got is Jack Ellis, who did really well in the 2 games he played at the end of the season, but he's 18-year-old, he's primarily a centre-back, so I need to strengthen in those sort of areas to give us a fuller squad and to be able to go for this first part of the season.
Yeah, cheers, thank you.
Anyone else? Next question. Come on, there's plenty.
Do we get any cash if Dean Henderson plays for Forest, or is it dependent on him playing for Man United?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's a long. The deal was obviously a long time ago. I was looking at it the other day actually. Believe it or not, just dusting it down. 2011. No, the add-ons almost always relate to being at their parent club, not being loaned out. So there won't be anything for if that player moves to another club on loan, as there wasn't before when he was on loan at his other clubs. It's all about the parent, and that's pretty standard, and it has been for a long time.
Next question. Have we got any more? Not very quiet. Oh, Stephen again.
Sorry.
Good lad for keeping it going. Well done.
With was it Liam McCarran that went to Stoke, will that, if we've got a sell-on fee, will that get put into this season's transfer budget?
That's me again, isn't it? I've been busy already.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I think in another forum or previously, David Holdsworth had said that we had an interest in any future profit on Liam McCarran. We're not envisaging receiving any cash in this financial year from that transfer either.
Next question. You're not very quiet. Oh, one at the back. Here we go.
I've got a pal at work who is not a football fan, and he can never believe me that a change of manager or change of coach could make a difference. So could Paul maybe explain how we went from the middle of February, when previous manager said that we couldn't defend, we then went 2 games without losing a goal and a 6-game winning run. Same players.
That's for you this time.
Well, it's obviously all about me, isn't it? No, I think the first thing was when I first got the call to ask if I would be interested in coming back, I went and had a look at the group, the shape that the team had been playing, and the one thing I recognised straight away was that they were playing with a back 4 with 2 really inexperienced centre backs in Morgan and Donnell. So looking through the squad, I tried to work out where we would get another centre back from, just to give us a bit more security there. So it was more just a little tactical tweak. And in all fairness to the previous manager, when I went in and spoke with the staff and said, right, this is what we're going with at the weekend at Orient, I'm going to change it to a back three. And Gav said to me, well, to be fair, Keith was talking about going with a back five. I look at on it as a back three because I want the two wing backs to be more attack minded, to go and get forward. So there was just that little tweak. And I think it's just one of those things really, when you're in management or in coaching, sometimes you get a little bit of luck goes your way as well, and I don't think we can ever discount luck and just say it doesn't matter about it, because it's really big. And in that game against Orient, we had bits of luck that went our way, and suddenly you get that bit of luck and you win a game, and yeah, we've changed the shape a little bit, but we win the game and players get a little bit more belief. So instead of going 8 games without winning a game, we've now won a game. And I remember Donnell saying to one of the coaches coming off, wow, it's different when you win, isn't it? Because he'd never won in a Football League game before, so it is a different feeling, and players get a buzz from it, supporters do, but players get a buzz from it because everybody likes winning. So we got that little bit of positive feel, and then it just snowballs and carries on, and the players believe in what you're doing. So, it was a small tweak, but in all fairness, I think we've got to give the players a lot of credit, because they knuckled down and put themselves in positions where they were making really important blocks and putting their body on the line and saving things, and all those things put together with change of shape, different voice from the sidelines, players getting a bit of confidence and a bit of luck with them, and it all just goes together to help create it. So what we need, starting with Crawley, we need to get all of those things to come together again and hopefully get ourselves off to a good start.
Next question, anybody?
It's one for John Nixon. The recent EFL meetings, are any of the rule changes, do you see them being an adverse for ourselves or a plus for ourselves?
Yeah, referring to any particular rule changes, I mean, there are no major significant changes really going forward. There is on the administration side and on our SCMP that's been tweaked in the last 2 years, but I don't see as there's any...
Only the subs.
Only the subs probably, yeah, but I mean, we argued on the subs, and it was basically League 1 and League 2 that said, because the Premier League I think have gone for 7 from 9? 7 from 9 or something like that, and I think everybody wanted to go up to 9 subs. Well, that's counter to what we're trying to do in terms of sustainability. What we said was, if we go up to 9 subs on the bench, that means we've got to have bigger benches, that means we've got to carry more people when we're travelling to away matches, which means we've got to have more accommodation and all sorts of bits and pieces. And then on team bonuses in some clubs, that means they've got an extra 2 people who are on the team bonus for that day. And suddenly you start to increase costs, and that's not what we were about. In League 1 and League 2 in particular, we argued that sustainability, if you did want to play 5 subs, which is what we've changed to, 5 from 7, we've kept the 7, but you can play 5 from 7. Now even that, I think, at a personal level, that's substantial, because it's very seldom that a goalkeeper is substituted unless there's an injury situation. So you're talking that of the 10 outfield players, any club now has the ability to change 50% of the outfield team in a game. And that can totally change the game and totally change the way it's set up. And I mean, I'm obviously just going on a little bit to the detriment at one of the playoff finals. I think it was Sutton, they got set up. It was one of the finals I was at Wembley. They'd got set up to defend.
It was the trophy.
The trophy.
The Papa John trophy.
Yeah, and they were into the last minute, and they'd set up to defend, and it was Rotherham, I think, that they were playing at the time. And Rotherham actually then used all their subs to attack, scored in the last minute. So Rotherham is going into the next additional time, had an attacking team, and Sutton had a defending team. And even though I thought at the time Sutton were the better team of the 2 over 90 minutes, Sutton lost it on that. So when you can change 50% of your team by putting 5 subs on, 50% of your outfield by putting 5 subs on, it's a substantial change, and we may see next season that things change substantially. But again, I think at the lower leagues, it's very seldom that lots of clubs, that you've got a real depth of quality going through. It's only in the Premier League where you have a massive depth of quality that they can actually put together a good 5 or 7 subs that could actually go on and start a game. Usually in the lower leagues, it's not as easy as that. But I don't think there's anything changing that's going to substantially change anything that we do next year now.
Yeah, we talked, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago, well, at the business breakfast. We talked to Paul about the effect of subs, and you were still trying to sort of second guess how you might think about it, wasn't you?
Yeah, it's one of them things where I don't like loads of subs because it actually disrupts the game. I think the fact that there can only be 3 stoppages, am I right in saying that? There can only be three stoppages to make those substitutions. That helps because, I mean, pre-season friendlies are important, but they're a bit of a farce when you know, I'm going to say something now, and I'm going to do it myself tomorrow night, where we're playing 2 11s tomorrow night. But it's not normal. That's not the right thing to do, I don't think, you know. So when it comes to games, I think 5 is over the top for what you need. I think you should be able to get away, you know. I know we're going back into the dark ages when I played. There was 1 sub, you know, so you've got to be able to manage it. The players have to be able to be resilient enough to be able to deal with the 90 minutes or 95 minutes, whatever it is. I hope that there's many games this season where I don't have to be using 5 subs. I'd like to think that the team that I pick will be right, and maybe it might just need a little tweak over the game, but not 5 is a drastic change, and it tells us that we've got something probably wrong if we're having to make 5 changes.
Next question, anybody? Against? Are you sure?
That's what Paul was
Keep
saying.
it going, come on.
What's the, if you get a time frame on the trialists, Paul and Jamie? How long?
Jamie Devitt?
Aye.
I wouldn't say there's a time frame, no. Unless they start to put pressure on me, but so far they haven't done. They've trained with us through to this point. They'll be involved in the game tomorrow night. I'm sure there'll be a discussion after the game and over the weekend. And when we decide a decision, when we make that decision, we'll speak to them, let them know. What I will say is that I won't be keeping players if I don't think that they're going to make us better. We had one trialist who I did say to them that they could stay with us up until the game at Penrith on Friday, but after watching him for the first 3 days, I already made my decision. So I just spoke to him last week and said that there wasn't going to be anything here. I did apologise because I went against saying I would keep him for the week, but I'm not in this job to be a nice bloke and to look after people just for the sake of it. I've got to think that they're going to make us better. And the guy wasn't a bad lad in any way. He tried to apply himself well. He wasn't at the level that our players have come back. Now, his argument was, well, I'm just trying to get fit. Well, I'm sorry, but our lads have come back fit. Our lads have come back in a really good state of fitness. They've worked extremely hard. They're absolutely knackered today, but I'm not bothered because I want them to be, because we've got to build them up. We've got to make them as strong physically, but also there's a mental strength which goes with getting yourself up and getting going again, even when you are tired and you're sore. There's a difference between being injured and being sore, and when they're sore, I don't mind that. They've got to get themselves through that. And we did some runs the other day. Well, in fact, I thought the runs we did the other day were hard, but then speaking to them today, they said the runs today were the hardest they've done. Just don't really know how that works, but anyway, they said it. But what I see from that is that they are more tired doing these runs than they probably will be in a game, and there's a mental side to that they know that their body can do a bit more in a game. There's never a point where, you know, they shouldn't be. Well, I've never seen it where players are on the knees at the end of games, and I'm saying, you do it in training, so why don't you do it in games? I want you to run, and I want you to get through that point where you are breathing out of your backside. You can go again. It's as simple as that. So they're showing me in training they can do it. let's hope they show it tomorrow night. In the game against Penrith is not. I want it to be about football. I expect us to dominate the football tomorrow, but tomorrow they are going to have to just run and run and run, and if they haven't done the running and the physical stuff that we want in the game, the first 11 will run at half time to top it up, to make sure we get the right amount of physical stuff. The ones in the second half, if they haven't done it, they will run at the end of the game, because we're really fortunate that this season we've got a live GPS system, so we have tripods at the side of the pitch that picks up the GPS pods as the game's going on, so there's no hiding place for them. We can see their total distance, we can see their high speed running, their very high speed running, which is sort of 5.5 metres a second or over 7.5 metres a second. We can see what they're doing, and if they don't hit the targets, they've been told that they will run at half time or run at the end of the game, because it's about that physical nature, because if you can't run in League 2, you've got a problem, and we are going to have to run. I want to be fitter, I want to be stronger, I want them to be resilient enough to deal with a 46, 50, 52, whatever game season it's going to be. That's what they've got to be able to do.
Next question, anybody? Go to...
Thank you. Has there been any update on the pure pay debt? And if they come calling, can we pay it back?
I think this is you, John.
Right. I think at the last fans forum, or just there or thereabouts, which is the end of May, beginning of June, we'd been in touch with Pure Pay and the representatives, and trying to get them to agree to payment plan. We sent them notice of that payment plan on, first of all, on a text message, and said this is what we propose. We were trying to get a meeting, and we couldn't get that meeting, as you're aware. I think I said that the last time. And so we sent them a text and said this is what we propose, and then we as a board got together, and formally the chairman wrote to Pure Pay at about the beginning of June and said, this is our proposal of what we want to pay back, how we want to pay back, and we're talking about paying back 100% of the loan, by the way, over a given period of time, with interest and capital repayments on each year going forward. And that was at the beginning of June, and we did a very quick chase up from there on in to ensure that they'd got the documentation, because it was a formal letter. This is what we propose. We had to get to that sort of a stage. I then at a conference, and then I've been on holiday, and we came back and we did a little chase up straight first thing Monday morning. Where are we? What's happening? And tried to find out what was going on, because we hadn't had an answer to that letter. And I did get a form of reply, and last night I was able to speak to John Jackson, and John Jackson informed me last night that he was working on the balance of interest for this year, which is important, because I think there's been 2 interest rises this year, and the interest that we pay on the loan is a percentage above the bank rate. So I think there's been 2 bank rate changes, so our interest rate this year will be a little bit bigger, but it'll be over a given number of days at that rate and a given number. So he said to us last night, I'm working that out, and I said, well, I need to know that. Please, can you get it back to us? And then I spoke with Andrew Jenkins, and said what we'll do is when we get that figure, because we want to pay some capital and we want to pay all the interest this year, we can then have a quick board meeting and agree to put monies aside in this financial year, which finishes tonight. And so we can put X amount aside, and we'll put that aside, ready to pay over to Pure Pay as part of that loan, as soon as we get a written agreement that they accept our terms, if you like. And I mean, I'm not trying to be controversial, but we've sort of said we want to pay this, and this, which is capital and interest every year. So we've put a proposal to them. They're working on the numbers. I'm expecting those numbers. They'll go to Nigel, and I hope, but it's down to the board, whether they decide that they're going to put so much money aside in this financial year. It won't leave us now. It'll not leave us until we and they have an agreement that this is what we're going to do over a given number of years. And when we can get to that stage, that's absolutely vital, because anybody else coming in, the first thing that they don't want to do is to have to pick up historic debt. So if somebody was coming in on a normal, I mean, we as directors now are offering to pay the whole amount back because we borrowed the whole amount. We're offering to pay the whole amount back. But anybody else coming in would not want to come into the club and put money in and then find the first million that came in went straight out to pay a historical debt, because the first amount of cash that comes into the club has got to be for the infrastructure and for the team building. So, I mean, Paul would be over the moon if we said to him, Paul, here's 300k or 500k team on, and there's no strings attached, over and above the budget. So nobody wants to come in and not do that, and that would be their first priority. What they don't want to do is to see that money disappear on historic debt. And it's one of the major sort of, and Nigel will come in because he's more versed in this than I am, it's one of the major problems that in any club or any business has when somebody wants to come in and take over, and we do want somebody to come in and take over, by the way. They wouldn't normally come in, in any business they come in and try and negotiate historic debt and say, well, you've got X millions of pounds, I'll give you so much for that, so that they don't spend all their money paying off old debt. We're not quite in that position, we're promising to pay back the lot, but so if we can clear this hurdle and get the agreement, then that opens the gateway very clearly for other people to come in, or other persons or other companies to come in and say, we want to invest in Carlisle United, and we know the money isn't immediately going to disappear down the old debt pothole. It's going to go in for the team, for the infrastructure, for stadium improvement, for whatever they decide they want to do. So that's where we are. Almost at the 11th hour last night, I had a conversation with John, so that was good. And so I'm happier about that, and we just await for these figures.
Can I say something about this?
Yes, of course you can.
As somebody that sort of single-handedly talked my board into backing the proposed takeover by what was at that time EWM and Philip Day, only to find out when we got to the Christmas that they weren't going to take it over, they're going to do something else. I am really, really, really disappointed in a man who says he supports the city, who says he supports the football club, that it's taken them until now, a year and a bit after we effectively told them that we would no longer support the takeover. I'm really disappointed that they have made no effort to come forward and talk to us, not necessarily negotiate, but talk to us about this loan and a formula for repaying it, sorting it out, whatever. And I think, you know, my plea to whoever owns Pure Pay, and everybody has the thoughts on that, please get to the bottom of this and sort it out, because this club needs it sorted out, the supporters need it sorted out, the team manager and everybody else needs it sorted out, and there's only one person that can do that. So please, my plea to them would be, don't just put it back and put it back and put it back like you've done all this time. Come forward and sort it out. Do you want to say something, Nigel?
Any follow-up?
No, I think you've said enough there, Billy.
Right, another question.
Can I just say something? My plea is, don't come and ask for it all now, though, because that will affect what I'm trying to do. I think the football club has got a really good, positive vibe about it at the moment. Everything off the pitch, in terms of the structure that we've got, with the people who are working over in the East Stand, are doing an absolutely brilliant job. There's been some new appointments made in terms of the shop, in terms of the commercial, and brilliant appointments from what I've seen so far in terms of what they're doing, the interest that's coming in. let's try and keep it positive. Let's not have a fight that we don't need at the moment. Let's keep it positive. Let's take it into football. Let's make Carlisle United about football, not politics, not fighting over things. I understand there's issues. There's issues every football club you go to. Let's make it about football, and let's build on the positive stuff we had at the end of last season, the positive feel. Even though I said it at the time, it's ridiculous that we're celebrating staying up, but there was a positive feel. Let's keep it going. Let's make sure everybody stays with it for whatever your reasons are for supporting Carlisle. Let's make it really positive, and my plea is don't ask for it back now in a lump sum, because I want to have a good football season.
And yeah, and look, just to round it off, you know, as a board member and a director, I absolutely understand Billy's position, because I mean, I've gone through similar frustrations, but Paul's perfectly right. From the day Paul arrived, there was a complete change in atmosphere in the club. Things suddenly turned literally on that Wednesday morning, and I mean literally, you wouldn't believe the way it turned, and it's turned that way. And I think just to say with EWM, Pure Pay, whatever you like to call them, they've never ever asked for any money back. That's absolutely key. So there's no pressure to pay the money back. We want to pay them back because we think it's the right thing to do as a business, and we've got a degree of honour as businessmen that says when you've made a debt and you can afford it, you should be paying it back, like anybody, mortgage or whatever you like. So that's where we are, but they've never demanded it, they've never asked for it, and I understand Billy's frustration, and you know, we've got to try and work with them to do this in the way that's right for Carlisle United. I'm sitting on the board of the Football League, and I'm watching people and I spent a little bit of my holiday talking to people at Oldham who were desperate to see, hoping that Derby would go into business so that they would actually not fall through the trapdoor as the second last one out. And you know, when I look at the financial mess that some of the clubs are in, right across Championship, League 1 and League 2, we are in a good place, but we're pretty prudent as well. You know, we won't go, let's spend the earth, but we're pretty prudent, but managers are the same.
We're in a good place, and I absolutely agree with what you're saying, Paul. But they also know that this club will not move forward until we get new investment. Investment that's in the club and not just in debt.
So that's well done. Right, George, I think you've got a...
I see you're desperate for questions. Just one for Paul. I see we've got two of your under-19 squad here. Did you try for any of the other ones, or were you just looking to get those?
Do you know what, you've made me think about it here. No, I think they were, I think it was just those two that I've tried for, to be honest with you. There's some really good players out there, some really good ones. I mean, Sonny Hilton is a really talented footballer. He's only a little fella, but he's a really talented footballer. He's a really positive personality. He's a bubbly character. And Ryan Edmondson is a player who I've sort of followed all of his career because I like him. He's a throwback striker, throwback number 9. He's an old-fashioned target man, which I think we were lacking last season. We didn't have that real focal point up front. The strikers, I mean, Amari, Deno, Louis Alessandra, they did a good job for us, but they weren't that target man. They weren't that proper number 9, and that's what I wanted to bring in. My focus in the summer was to bring a spine through the team, with a keeper, centre backs, which I'm still working on, midfield, and a striker. And I'm nearly there with it. Sonny adds that little bit of creativity. He plays wide as a 7. He can play as a number 10. And when he played for me in the 19s, he played as a central midfielder. That's not where I'm seeing him long term for us over the season. So no, they're the only two that I've tried for so far, and we'll keep seeing what else comes in.
I think there was another one here. You did have your hand up, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was a follow-up from EWM, I'm afraid, what John said. From what you said, it sounds like the interest rate is tracking base rate, which sounds like it's part of the agreement. So what I didn't follow about that, you said EWM are having to think about it. What exactly are they thinking about if that's written into the agreement?
No, they're not thinking about it. They're just putting the numbers together. Pure pay at present. The interest that we pay is a percentage above base rate. So because base rates, I think it's moved twice, then that percentage of ours is gone up. So they're just calculating that over the period of the last 12 months, which finishes tonight, and then they'll have a figure for us to say this is the amount of interest that we want, or that we want you to put into your accounts for this year, which is the 21-22 year. When we've got that figure, then we can add a lump of capital to it and put some money aside and say, well, this is what we want to pay you back. So they will, the only thing that they will need to think about is, will they accept the sort of terms that we've said we want to give you interest and capital every year for the next number of years. Now, it's a little bit variable because we don't know what the interest rates are going to be, but it looks as though they're going that way. So the sooner we can pay money back, the sooner we can cap that debt down. And then you never know from there on in, but it gives anybody new coming in, at least they've got a fix and saying, well, I know what the commitment is. If I'm going to take this club over, and believe me, I think anybody new coming into the club would want, and so it's going to come down to the trust and the fans as well, I think they would want at least 76 to 80% of the shareholding so they could run the club their way without being fettered in any single way. So I think that would come as well. And then they may decide, listen, I'm going to pay a lump sum of that agreement, but that would be entirely up to them. But at least we give them a framework to work to that said we've got an agreement in place and that's what it is. So, you know, they know where they're going. They're not going to lose all the money in one fell swoop, which is what Paul said. Yeah, does that answer it or not? Go on.
Only one other small thing, you're talking about paying, repaying, sorry about this, you're talking about repaying capital as well. Is there no provision in the agreement that you can pay capital as and when you want and therefore reduce the interest? Rather than wait for them to say...
I don't think there's any provision in the agreement for paying anything back at all.
Oh, that's all right then.
Yeah, but the key problem is that is fantastic. Great deal for Carlisle United. Here's some money, you don't have to pay it back. But the outstanding amount and interest is payable on demand. Boom. So we don't have to pay anything back, but if somebody decides to demand it, it's like, can you give us 2.4 million tomorrow? Now that's going to give me, Steve, Andrew and the football club severe bloody hiccups, yeah, including Mrs. Nixon as well. So, you know, we don't want to do that. So, and that's not what we want the club to do. And that's the problem. I don't think there is anything in the agreements of paying anything back at all. Nigel knows better.
No, I think there's a few dots just kind of being joined up together. It goes back to Richard's first point about if they ask for it all back, can you repay it? As John says, that caused everybody a big problem. But equally, there's no, as John said as well, there's been no call to pay anything back. So just to give some assurance to everybody here, in the discussions that we've previously had, it's clear that Pure Pay do understand the implications of asking for all the money back in one go, as Paul said. At the same time, they have talked to us about affordability, and the key for them is, and I genuinely believe this, because this is what John Jackson has told me with his Pure Pay hat on, is they don't want to call for cash from the club that it can't afford to pay, and in such a way then it becomes detrimental to the club. The club then gets into difficulties and we get into a spiral where things get worse rather than getting better, which damages them as much as the club. Ultimately, if you're going to pay this debt back, it needs a strong football club, which goes back to exactly what Paul says. This is to everybody's advantage here, is that this football club is strong and vibrant and exciting with lots of fans coming and lots of support. That helps the team, it helps the fans, it gives them what they want, it helps me and Suzanne put some cash into the coffers, and then ultimately it helps the people who the club owes money to, i.e. PurePay. So that's got to be, to me, very simply, in the best interests of everybody. So this is why I see the end of the season and us surviving in League Two was a absolutely pivotal tipping point, because if you're not successful, we get into that spiral and you think, wow, we've got a real problem here. Now, success at that point was just surviving in this division. Now, we've kind of moved on a little bit from that. We've got a buzz, it's exciting, people are really optimistic, we're doing great with things like the shirt sales, even though it's not in Derek's colour. I get that. So that's going great. We've had some good appointments, as Paul said about the commercial, and that's helping us generate more income off the field. And I've said before, this club, to generate more cash for the team, for the club, for the infrastructure and to pay debt, we need to grow our income. We can't do it by cutting costs. We've tried that and we've seen what it does. It ends up, you cut, and then you're into the bone and you've got a problem. So we've got to grow income. So having excitement, vibrancy, fans coming to games, a team that's doing well and people that want to support the club actually is in the best interests of everybody. That's from guarantors who carry the can if there's no money, right through all the fans, right, everybody, to the community, the city, brilliant. So that's what I think we all are focused on. It's certainly what Paul and myself are focused on, and Suzanne, day to day. It's about making this club better so that we can have the best chance that we can next season and see where that takes us. And that's got to be good for everybody, and I think that's what I want people to focus on and not get dragged down into if, buts and maybes. And I think PurePay understand that, because if they didn't, they could have asked for the debt back ages ago, and they haven't. So I think they understand that, and we're just going to work together, work our way through, and get to be focused 100% on the football, because we are a football club, and that is what matters. And we spend too much time getting into talking about the debt. So we've got to create a position where we're talking about the football more. And that's kind of my take.
Just got one at the back here.
Is that on? You had last week the launch meeting with local businesses, and as Nigel says, we're all hoping for more funds, more money to come into the club. Was there anything positive that came out of that with the local businesses? I mean, concrete, or was it just all good wishes and yeah, well done? And the next thing I wanted to ask or comment on, it's can the fans get a glimmer of hope due to the fact that we've got Fred Story's name on the back of the shirts now?
Do you want to say, it was your first event that you were at, Paul. Do you want to give us your take on how you found it?
Well, I thought it was a really good event. I've got to say, the catering, Watts did an absolutely brilliant job with the breakfast. If you get a chance to come back to another one at breakfast, you've got to come here because it was fantastic. Even though I had to just nick a bacon butty on my way out, I didn't get the full rewards. So I thought it was a really positive event. I thought, excuse me, I think I was told there was about 30 new businesses involved. Funny enough, when Nigel came into the office just about an hour or two ago, I said, has there been anything from it? And I'll let him or Suzanne fill you in on that sort of information. But I thought there was a really good positive feel to the whole environment. At the end of last season, I went along and did a Q&A in the Holston, where there was about 110, 120 business people there. And again, that was fantastic, and everybody coming up saying, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to come back. Again, I've not been and checked and followed it all up, but I'm led to believe it was very good, and I felt there was a real good feeling about it. And then following on from that, when I went into the shop on Friday night, when the kit was launched, again, I thought there was a real positive feeling about it all, and I'm not stupid, and I know that we need to keep winning games of football, or start winning games of football to keep that positive feel, but that's what our aim is. I can't answer the next bit about what's come, but hopefully somebody else can.
Yeah, yes, we have made some actual proper sales, got some cash in, sold some commercial properties, as they say, off the back of it. Absolutely. We've had, interestingly, with COVID, we haven't had the opportunity to have businesses in a room a bit like this, because we've only done 2 of these with fans since COVID, to explain what's going on, to try and get their views, and so that they can listen. And it was really good. There was about 80 people in the room, about 30 of them were new, and we saw some old friends and old faces who committed to supporting us next season. The commercial team have been working really, really hard to get back to those people. Debbie, who just joined us 2 days before, the new commercial sales manager, she's been out all day today at businesses off the back of that meeting. People who've said, come and visit me, let's talk and let's do deals. And these will start to turn into bits of PR on the website where we'll see deals being confirmed. So it's real. The hospitality's going great. Lots of the games are already sold, far more than at this time in previous seasons. The number of people who've already booked, individuals who've booked tables in Foxes for the games, far higher than in the past. I could give you lots of numbers, but it doesn't matter. It's better. It's better, and it's real, not just people saying it. The bit about Fred and Stories, we're delighted that Story Homes are on the back of the shirt. I think reading anything more into that at this stage, I think is a bit premature. I spent an hour and a half with Fred at the Legends game, sat next to him in the box, and he kind of said to me, don't get carried away and don't get any ideas about me coming to be the White Knight here. He wants to support the club, and he's a great person at doing that. He's done it in the past, he's put his money in, but I think looking to him to come and do anything now, I think that's a bit premature, and I think we're just glad to have them on board, and it's great to have local businesses, and I think it's good that that's there, and hopefully others will follow that lead and almost say, well, if Fred's willing to support the club again, I think we will, and I think it's those kind of messages that I think are really positive. So we'll see.
I'm on Stephen, I'm at the back.
Sorry.
It's all right. Anything for you?
With the kit manufacturer, is this the last year with them, or is there any more years with it?
Yeah, this is the last year of the deal. It ends sort of June next year.
What state is it? I don't know how to say it. Is it area? Do they get paid up front, or do they get a discount, like a certain percentage of the strips training kit, or do they get paid up front? How does that work?
Well, they pay us.
All right.
So
no, sorry, no, I don't.
I mean, the return.
I don't understand things like that, so
no.
that's why.
So basically, what happens is that it's relatively straightforward. We negotiate a deal to get kit at a fixed price per shirt, per size, training wear. So there's a whole menu of what we pay them to purchase the kit for. We then sell it and make a profit on that. On top of that, depending on how much kit we actually sell, the volumes, we then get a bonus payment. And there's a fixed bonus payment, and then there's an extra earn-out kicker on top, depending how much the sales go above a certain level. So for us, having a popular shirt earns us more money, which is great to recycle into the club. And at the same time, part of the deal, and probably one of the most important bits, is that commercially we need a huge amount of kit for the team, and if we were to pay for that in cash, it would it will be a really significant amount. So part of the deals that we negotiate is what's called gift of kit. So how much kit in this deal will you give us for free to go with our players? So when we're negotiating deals, we're negotiating on levels of gift of kit, price per item on a menu basis, and then how much bonuses we'll get for giving them the contract, plus things like marketing support, so they'll give us things to extra cash. So that's how it works really, and the deal's up for renewal at the end of this season. So generally we start looking at discussions around end of August once we've got into the season to look at who we might go with next season, put the business out to tender, see what best deal is, so that we can then select a manufacturer, look at designs and get the designs signed off generally by about December time.
No, it's about November time.
Yeah, November time.
Already December.
Yeah, so we start getting designs early November, sign the designs off in November, and then do the quantities in December, January. So that's how the kind of process works.
Any more for the panel? Hang on, I'll come to you in a second.
Yeah, we spoke about players coming in. I mean, think about players going out. Is there any likelihood of any departures before the start of the season? And second part, you talked about some of the players going out on loan. What's your view on that?
Yeah, at this moment there's no imminent departures. I think what tends to happen, those sort of things just evolve. So when new players come in and other players start to realise that they might not be a starter in the team and they want to be, then that's when things will start to happen. At the moment, everybody's come in and they're all on an even keel in that they're all training together. They'll all play 45 minutes tomorrow, they'll all play 45 minutes on Wednesday, and it's then as you get through pre-season when they start looking and thinking, doesn't look like I'm going to start the season. That's when things will start to happen. So that I would expect will evolve over the next few weeks, and obviously we've got till the end of August. 1st of September the transfer window closes. In terms of loans, yeah, I'm keen for the younger players especially to go out and get some loan experience, because we need them to be playing. We don't have a reserve side here. There's a slight tweak to the youth league at the moment for this season, where we can play first year pros, so we can play under 19s in those games on a Saturday, so they will get some game time. But for me, I think they need experience of playing in senior football. So if it means sending them out to maybe even National North or the National League, if we can get them out there, then I will look to do that, because I think that's really important for their own development.
Okay, there's another one at the back.
Apologies for this. Going back to the pure pay thing, a few years ago I seem to remember debt to, I think it was Mr. Story, being offset against sponsorship. Is there any sort of prospect to pure pay accepting anything like that?
It's not in the current situation that we've put to them at all. No, and you're right. In the past, we have had debt offset to sponsorship. Pioneer Stand was part of an offset of some debt to Pioneer, and I think Stories maybe did. I can't remember the story. Did the East Stand? Yeah, Stories did the East Stand. So there's a bit done there, but there's nothing in the current agreement that's offset. So anything that's currently got EWM on, like this place, and any stands, they actually pay cash for. And in the early days of when we were setting up the loan facility, and we met with Philip, I remember it was one of the points they wanted to actually offset cash for sponsorship against the debt. And at that point in time, that wasn't actually what Carlisle United wanted. We needed cash to come in to help us survive, to pay wages and keep going forward. So we negotiated at that point in time, can we have the loan and can you also pay for your sponsorship, which at that time was on the front of the shirt as well as in this Fox's restaurant. So when we set the deal up, it was, will you pay for what you have commercially and will you also give us a loan? And so there's nothing back in any agreement that we're proposing to them to change any of that. They still, and I think going forward this year, are paying for the stand and box and bits and pieces. So they are paying us cash as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, the way to think of it is that they're entirely separate. One's a commercial deal, sponsorship deal, totally separate, the loan facility, and no interaction between them.
Okay, any more questions? We've got two people who haven't answered it. I don't want to feel left out, so if anybody's got a question for Steve, please feel free.
Suzanne's got laryngitis, so
Yeah,
you might not actually be able to hear what she's saying.
I'm going to touch it. Are we nearly dried up on the questions? Have we got another one?
I think probably Paul. We're playing Morton behind closed doors, I believe. Is that correct? Is that our decision, their decision, or both?
Well, I wanted a training game. That's what I wanted. I wanted a game that we can actually manage it ourselves. So it's not 245 minutes. We can do it how we want. So all of pre-season is an extension of the training. That's what it's about. So that was a training game that we asked to organise. We put it out once the Scottish Cup draw was made and we knew who was going to be available on what days. We went for that. We put a circular around to all the clubs in this area to see if anybody could. We got it back from Green at Morton. So it was probably, it was my idea as part of our training to do it behind closed doors, and they agreed to it. For whatever reason, they decided to promote it as one of their pre-season fixtures, whereas for me, it's one of my pre-season training days, and I don't know why they did it. It's actually caused us a real problem, I'll be honest with you. It's not because I'm trying to be secretive. You just look at our training ground, we can't be secretive. There's no big screens up or there's no gates that we can lock, and I accept that, but it's caused us a problem. Because I didn't want it made public that we were playing a game. I don't, when I design a pre-season programme, I don't just think, right, that's a good idea, I'll do that. I do a bit of thinking into it. So I felt as though we had enough public games to be out there. I didn't want any more public games, simple as that. And as I say, it's not because I'm being secretive, it's just because that's how I wanted to structure our pre-season plan. As it is now, it's going to be a behind closed doors game without any doors to close, but it'll still be a training game. It's an extension of training, that's all it is. So we're also playing a game up at Largs, which will be an extension to our training, and I think we are playing enough public games where people, the supporters, could come and watch, and hopefully that will be enough for everybody to see what we're going to be like come the first game of the season.
Yeah, cheers for that. It might be a bit early, but do you think optimistically we've got an opportunity possibly to get towards the playoffs this year?
Well, I'm not starting the season wanting to be in a relegation scrap, I will say that. One thing I would say that's really, really surprised me this summer, I don't know why, maybe just because I've had a long time out of trying to do contract negotiations at Bristol, and at the FA I didn't have to negotiate contracts, thankfully, but being involved in it now, I actually can't believe how crazy clubs are going. The level of money that they're offering is actually quite frightening, really. And I've asked this question to John today, and me and Nigel I keep moaning to Nigel about it. Where's this financial fair play coming into the reckoning here? Because I'm hearing what not only League 2 clubs are offering, what National League clubs are offering to players, and it's absolutely scary. It's like, and this isn't me complaining because I've been told what the budget is here. I know that, and I know that we don't have like a secret little money tree somewhere down in Denton or anywhere where we can go and just take a little cup of it. I know that's not the case, but I'm really surprised how clubs, not of the size that I think we are, who are just being stupid with the money that they're spending. So where we're going to be, I always think at the end of the season, the league table generally reflects where your budget is in terms of it. I don't think we're going to be in the top half of the table in terms of budget, and that's only me going off what I'm being told about offers that clubs are making. You know, that clubs with no football history, clubs with not the size of us, not the gates that we're getting, I don't know how they're doing it, really don't. But we'll work with what we've got. I want to be competing at the top end of the table. But what I did say end of last season as well is that I don't see there being an overnight fix here. I think this is something, and I did say it at the time, this isn't me trying to give myself breathing space to stay in the job as long as possible. I want to stay in the job as long as possible. This is going to take a few transfer windows to make this whole squad evolve. What I have to do as the manager and what we have to do as a group of staff and players is get results short term to allow me to have a medium and a long term future at the club, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I want to be up competing in the top half of the table, but until the season starts, or until we probably get 12 games in, I won't know what everybody else is doing. I'll be able to get an idea. But you look at clubs like Bradford City, I think they've made 9 or 10 signings, and some bloody good ones as well at that. Players who I would have been interested in signing but couldn't compete. I know what Crawley are talking about spending on players. I know what Stevenage have spent on players. I know what Salford City are spending on players, because there's players there that we've discussed. Outrageous, the sort of level of salaries that they're putting into players. So let's wait and see where we are. I certainly don't want a season, and I don't think anybody in this room, I don't think the other 5 and a bit thousand who turn up regularly for home games, I don't think anybody in this top table wants to do what we did last year. We want to be competing at the right end, and if we're doing that, that will get more supporters coming in, that will create more finances for the football club, that will help us get even better and better and stronger as we go forward.
Cheers, thank you.
Right, any more questions before we... Oh, another one, George?
Just a quickie. We had last season, apart from his first game, very committed player from Southampton on loan. Is he have you tried it? Is he still on offer to come on loan, you think?
We've had discussions about him. There's a part of me wants, I want to try and have our own players as much as we possibly can, where there might be a bit of value further down the line. There will be loan signings, I'm not saying that they won't. The view that we had from Southampton when the discussions were that they felt that he was going to go to a higher level, play higher than League Two. We're just going to have to wait and see. There's nothing, I'm not saying no to anybody at the moment. I'm quite open-minded, and I just want to get players that fit into the profile of what I want our players to look like, and let's see further down the line.
Any more before we... Oh, yes, we have at the back.
In an ideal world, would you like at least one extra coach? I presume the finances preclude any more coaching staff, but perhaps
an extra coach, did you say? Sorry.
Yeah, a first-team coach, say, because there's only you and Gavin, and
yeah, no, there's me and Gavin, Paul Gerrard. For me, I think that's enough. I want to be on the grass. I want to coach. I've been in clubs where there's been, well, what did we have at Bristol City? We had a manager, we had myself, Keith Downing, Curtis Fleming came in, Dave Rennie was head of performance, and you find there's too many coaches. So I personally don't feel we do need any more staff. I'm happy with the staff we've got. I felt there was 2 areas that need changing. There was the recruitment side of it, and I'm delighted we've got Greg Abbott in. He's doing a fantastic job so far, filtering a lot of the rubbish stuff away that I want to do. He's having to deal with that. And I also felt we needed to change the sports science side with our fitness coach, and Jamie has stepped up from the academy, and I've got to say he has been absolutely different class so far. He's so hungry and driven. He's got a really clear idea of what he wants, so we're working with myself and with Gav. We've got a really strong plan together of how we want it to be. So I'm really pleased with the staff, and personally I don't feel as though there is a need for another member of staff.
Can I ask a totally different question? If this is the last day of the financial year, what is the revenue for the year that's just finished?
That's a bit sharp. It'll definitely be up on last year, but it takes a few weeks for everything to filter through.
Yeah, so we cut off today, and then we start working on the accounts, and generally we have the accounts available within the club within about 2 or 3 weeks. The auditors are due in September, and we get the audited figures by about the end of October, and then we do the accounts, and they're released when the board decides that they're going to be released, which is usually about March. So, but we'll have the numbers shortly. We can't give a definitive figure. What we've kind of said this year is that we expect to be broadly break even, which after 2 years of profit and COVID is remarkable when you see that clubs in our division losing millions. But that's for another day about the analysis of losses in this division. So I'll confirm that in the update in a couple of weeks' time what the revenue is. We don't want to be secretive. They've got nothing to hide. And anybody who's into the club numbers knows that I give hundreds of numbers out. There's enough numbers to drown if you're so inclined. And it is what it is. We've said all along that we need to grow our income, and it should be improved, and that way we can grow as a club. So that should be good. Can I just add one thing to just link to that question that you had before about staff? I think we've had some discussion, there's been a bit of debate about the recruitment processes at the club and the need to improve those. And one of the things that we talked about as a board with Paul when we were discussing whether we could convince him to stay on was that, as Paul said, it had to be right, the plan. So we're not just kind of ploughing on. We need to have some vision as to what we're trying to do as a football club, and we've spent a lot of time talking about that and the requirements of what Paul thought we needed to do, how we needed to improve our recruitment, how we needed to get ahead of recruitment to improve our processes so that we got more players right than wrong. And we're starting to see the payoffs from that, I think, already, in that I can tell you the lists of players that we're considering is far bigger. The quality of those lists and the work that's going into them is far better, and we've got people in place actually under Greg now, haven't we? So do you want to explain who else we've got in already?
Just this afternoon, Greg had a Zoom call with a small group of part-time coaches, part-time scouts that we've got as well. So what we've tried to do, we've tried to cover the country as much as we possibly can. We are certainly trying to focus on the northwest area, the northeast, the Yorkshire area, sort of the Stoke area, because we can't change where Carlisle is on the map, and we have to be realistic that the chances are most of the players that will be attracted to come to here are going to be in that area. So we're focusing on that. We've got scouts who are working in this from, I would probably say, from Birmingham downwards. Then we do have one who's down in the south, who's going to work on those games there, because what we don't want is a chief scout who's based in Carlisle who has to go and watch Crawley down there, and he's got a donkey ride to get down to Crawley, and probably an overnight stay to make it safe for his well-being to then come back as well. So we've got somebody in that area. So we're trying to get people in the area who can go and do a job. They're just part-time. They're people who I know, who Greg knows, people who we trust, and what they will do, they will go and do final game reports. So for Crawley, it will be their last pre-season game, and we'll get those reports done to give us additional information on top of the video analysis that we do of the opposition, that comes up with a report that I then, with the other staff, put a game plan together of how we're going to go about it. What they will also do is they will go out and watch games and highlight players who might be doing well, who we then will add to a database, and then when it comes to the next transfer window, instead of at the moment where we're starting a little bit behind everybody because we've had no database in place, we can now go, right, well, the manager wants a right back, so there's 5 in this list who we want. He's available, he's not available, he could be on a loan, and we've got a bit of an idea of what might be available and where we might be able to bring additional players into the squad. So what we're hoping is that moving forward, we have got a plan in place, and it's not just an off-the-cuff reaction and a sort of heat-of-the-moment reaction. We're hoping that we have a plan in place that will give us a better structure to hopefully, as Nigel said, make more right decisions than wrong. And I will sit here now and I will hold my hands up and say, there's every chance that some of the signings will be wrong. What I've got to do and what Greg's got to do is try and minimise the wrong ones and get as many right as we possibly can.
We're already seeing the benefit of a little bit of that in this window. I mean, it's early days, as Paul says, but the guys that we've got in this network that we're creating, they're experienced in the game. They've, even before they're involved with us, they've been watching games and involved, looking at players all their lives and last season. So when we're looking at players now, it's not just the manager's eyes. We've got more eyes on more players, which gives us a better chance of getting more right. And so that when they had the meeting today, they're discussing the targets that we've got now, and it's not just Greg putting ideas into Paul or discussing options and stuff. We've got other people in, so this is kind of, well, getting back to basics, I suppose. It might sound a bit obvious, but we've got to get there, and it'll pay off in the longer term. But we're starting to see a bit of benefit of it now, and I was really encouraged when Greg came and said that they were having this recruitment meeting about players. So that's really good, and the manager wasn't involved. He'd given them the targets and the criteria, and they then come back to Paul with, here's what we think of what we're looking at. So that's all good, I think, and progress.
Right, any more questions before we wind up? You sure you haven't got one for Steve, because he's sat there quiet all night? No? Right, well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to the panel. We've Bill Atkinson, John Nixon, Paul Simpson, Nigel Clibbins, Steve Pattinson, who was sat there quiet all night, been a good boy, and Suzanne Kidd at the end as well. Thank you very much. We'll see you all down at Brunton Park in just a few weeks. Enjoy the season. I'm sure you'll all come back to the next forum we have, which will be...
Thank you for the free pies last season.
Free pies? Nigel, do you? Free pies. Anyway.